Maddie said something about a pair of glasses? This is why Masons don't do field missions.
It's a little Mason. Are you here for your episode?
You have an episode of Monster Menagerie done?
Of course not. Please. But making one, that's another story. No ghosts are coming to fetch him, so he must be alive. Unfortunately.
Welcome to Monster Menagerie. I'm your humble host, Mason Kren. Mason's the title, Kren's the name. Boy, do we have an episode for you today. It's the month of love, so I figured who better to analyze than the witch who embodies sensuality and confidence, Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a surprisingly accurate witch according to ancient traditions. I'm serious, from her look to her moves, there's so much about her that matches up to the old, pre-Wicked Witch concepts of what a witch even is. Now, full disclosure, this episode was inspired, years ago, by a now delisted video from Gaijin Goomba. His research and passion acts as the floor upon which I'm building this episode. You'll find a link to his current channel and to that delisted episode down in the description below. Make sure you give him a follow, alright? On that note, because it's really hard to research game characters, we're also going to be taking primarily from the animated movie Bayonetta Bloody Fate, which more or less follows the plot of the first game. I'll be supplementing the movie with things from the game as needed, a move I don't usually make, but what can I say? Something about Bayonetta just inspires me.
Good boy.
There's a lot to cover with Bayonetta, but before we jump in, I just want to remind you that this show and everything else we do, like our streams over on Twitch, is all about promoting the core of our lore, a novel called The Paladin. If you like what you see, enjoy the analyses, why don't you stop by our website and check out the first 3 chapters of the novel. Link down in the description. Alright, no more stalling. Let's dive into the lore of the witch who is equal parts dangerous and sensuous, Bayonetta.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Ooh, okay, where do I even begin? Well, obviously, spoilers ahead for Bayonetta.
If I needed a biographer, you wouldn't be my first choice.
Long ago, 2 ancient groups lived in harmony, as they are wont to do in times preceding the start of epic stories. The Lumen Sages and the Umbra Witches. You get it? You get it? Lumen, Umbra, light, and shadow. Yeah, it was clever back then. You actually had to know a little bit of Latin. Anyway, you know how these things go. A prophecy forbade the 2 groups from mingling. So, of course, that's what they did, and now, boom, we have little Bayonetta. Her mother was imprisoned, and she was kept from the dark arts forever. Or, that was the intention. After a long and messy war between the 2, humans stepped in with a good old-fashioned witch hunt to finish off the Umbra. Now, it didn't help that just as Bayonetta's bestie/rival/something more, Jean chose her to fight in her final test to prove herself, freaking angels attacked. Man, don't you just hate that? 500 years later, Bayonetta awakes in a casket at the bottom of a lake. No memories except that she's a witch. Now, Enzo, the information dealer, he sums up her plight pretty nicely.
But now, you're stuck, because you gotta sacrifice our Halo-wearing friends every day, or they'll drag your ass back down to hell.
Charming. From there, it's Bayonetta versus an endless slew of angels, with the mysterious Jean popping in to taunt her with some fragmented memories now and then. Oh, and of course the literal creator god, Jubileus, is gearing up for a big return. Apparently the treasures of the Lumen and the Umbra, the right and left eyes of the world, are the key to its resurrection. And toss in a little girl who looks suspiciously like baby Bayonetta. Spoiler, it is. Some slow-motion fights in an airfield and along the side of a skyscraper, and of course a final showdown against God herself. In outer space, obviously, because Bayonetta. Now that we've covered Bayonetta's wild backstory, let's talk about what makes her the ultimate witch. Shout out again to Gaijin Goomba for an amazing video on this topic, now sadly delisted. I've still got a link for it though down in the description, so make sure you give it a watch. Let's run through what makes Bayonetta the perfect witch. Number 1. The hair. Now historically, witches have drawn their power from their hair. In fact, during the witch hunts, it was actually a common practice to shave a witch so you could deny her that power. Also, it was handy to look for... Number 2. The devil mark. Birthmarks, blemishes, scars, extraneous nipples, or even a beauty mark. When witches seal their contracts with demons, specifically succubi and incubi, they're marked. For Bayonetta, it's that gorgeous little beauty mark. How do I know? Well, you remember the little girl I mentioned? Yeah, that's Cereza. That's Bayonetta as a child. There were some time travel shenanigans, don't worry about it. Beauty marks appear at birth, and do you notice what Bayonetta has that Cereza doesn't? Precisely. Number 3. Sexuality. Remember that thing I mentioned about contracts with succubi and incubi? Yeah, it's not exactly a handshake deal, though there is a lot of shaking. Sensuality and allure have always been a big part of witchcraft. Number 4. Guns. I know it sounds weird, but Gaijin Goomba found references to witch guns in places like Sierra Leone. Supposedly, these make their victims fall ill, while Bayonetta's guns just make them fall very, very dead. Now, of course, I'm talking about ancient witchcraft legends here, not modern witchcraft practices. Times change, but according to Rosemary Ellen Guiley's Encyclopedia of Witches, Witchcraft, and Wicca, Bayonetta pretty much ticks all the classic boxes. Now, let's take a look at those powers and see if the Paladins even stand a chance of subduing her. Oh boy, just right out of the gate. Second witch in the season, and we're already doing someone I legitimately don't think the Paladins can handle. Still, it's my job as a Mason to analyze her and make recommendations, of which my top one might just be run. Let's break down that long list of powers and assets, shall we? Number 1. The guns. Scarborough Fair, a set of 4 guns, 2 for her hands and 2 on her heels, are a match for any creature, heaven, hell, or in between. She wields these Derringer-inspired pistols like they were a freaking Gatling gun. Referred to as the bullet arts, her spins, twists, jumps, and even her Chun-Li-like kick put so much lead out there it's a public health risk. Oh, and my favorite part? Their individual names are parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Gods, do I love this franchise's sense of humor. Now, I suppose paladins could try donning some heavy vestments. We have a few different types depending on the location and needs, but the most common are ceramic/polyethylene mix with Kevlar backing. Of course, even those aren't meant to stand up to literal hails of gunfire, so strategic cover is a must. Maybe, and I know this is going to be a repeated suggestion for most of the year, we could focus on snipers? Number 2, the hair. Her wicked weaves not only allow her to produce insane weapons, but they're a conduit to channel her strongest demon allies, including the one and only Madama Butterfly. Now, the weapons aren't anything we wouldn't expect, from katanas to bazookas to even that giant chainsaw. This is definitely going to be a team effort, but again, it might be good to utilize snipers to deal the real damage while other paladins keep her busy up close. And as for those demons, these are in a class we rarely deal with. Certainly nothing like Madama Butterfly. Those giant fists and kicks, the horrid abominations that devour angels, those are their own scale. They might be worth their own examination if we had done them last year. There are possible wards. We might be able to exercise them, but there's just too many unknowns. Number 3, miscellaneous magic. Witchwalk would be annoying. The fire, tolerable. Hell, even her transformations into animals would be well within our range of experience. But man, the shift into Purgatorio would mean she's completely off our radar. We couldn't track her, couldn't see her, couldn't fight her. Though, we do see Cereza lend her glasses to Luca, which allows him to see the angels that appear alongside Bayonetta. This means we could potentially engineer something to see her. What we couldn't engineer is any way to handle that frickin' witch time. Yeah, slowing time, that's just cheating, man. Look at this. Look at this. She has an entire battle with angels, while Enzo is tumbling through the sky at high speed. But it's not without hope. In that same battle, she fights Jean to a standstill, and a semi-truck somehow enters witch time, or the witch time around the two is dispelled for a brief moment. Since Jean uses the passing truck to disappear, I can only assume she was behind it, meaning there is a way to disrupt witch time. Might be worth contacting some non-Paladin friends on this one. Number 4. Strength. Okay. This is the one that blew me away, and I will preface it by saying there might be other examples I missed, but gosh, she is strong. Like you have no idea how strong. First, I thought we'd start with this. A trolley car falls from the sky and she catches it with one hand. A trolley car from that era would have weighed around 18 to 22 tons. That's not even factoring in the force of it falling, but I don't have to because there's even better examples. Next up, she's in what appears to be a church in Vigrid. An angel rips it from its foundations and it flies into the air where Bayonetta grabs it and chucks it at the angel. Now, if we assume conservatively to be about 60 feet tall with 20-foot walls, mostly empty, we come up with a ballpark weight for this structure of about 576 tons, give or take. Child's play though, because later on, she's fighting on the side of a skyscraper when she catches an oncoming missile. Now, the weight alone for a missile of that size is in the neighborhood of about 80 tons, but you also have to factor in the force from its speed. Most missiles that size travel well into the thousands of miles per hour. But if we're being conservative, and let's just say 1,000 miles per hour, then the imparted force Bayonetta must overcome to stop it is a massive 14.6 million pounds. But we're not done, folks, because not too long after that, her father uses some magic to throw an entire freaking skyscraper at her. Now, I counted the windows, and I got about 28 floors. It's mostly intact, and if we assume concrete, glass, and steel composition, that thing weighs in the neighborhood of about 46,995 tons. And if it's going just a measly 50 miles per hour when it hits her, that's slower than a baseball pitch, it'll hit with the force of 213 million pounds. That's 106,500 tons. And she headbutts it back at her dad. Yeah, I'm not messing with Bayonetta. Not even in that, oh, squish me, mommy, nonsense. No, she could scissor cars in half with her legs, people. Does the rest of the analysis even matter at this point? Even if she had no magic, okay? She's basically Superman at this point. Sure, speed-wise, she can dodge bullets at point-blank range, or she can even run at highway speeds. She survives the frickin' vacuum of space, but with strength like that? I'm not sure anything else really even matters. I think you can all guess where she's going to end up on the threat level, so let's not waste any more time. The Order has two basic classifications of personnel, Paladins and Masons. Paladins go out in the field and get shot at, clawed at, and bitten at by monsters. Masons, like me, sit behind our nice, safe desks and handle phone calls asking how to avoid those shots, claws, and bites. As you can see, I specifically work here in the archives, a repository of knowledge from across the world and the tri-state area. I research, analyze, and observe threats Paladins ask about and give them my suggestions for how to deal with the situation. It's largely ignored, but they do tend to at least listen to my threat level. Now, this is a summation of the subject's offensive capability and likelihood of injury or incapacitation against the same. While it technically goes from 1 to 10, practically speaking it tops out at 6. 7 to 10 are ethereal threats, literal world-ending threats. Think of them as room to grow. Now, a 1 might be something like wisps invading your pantry. Your bread may dance, and you might have some Ghostbusters fried eggs going on your counter, but a quick de-ghosting from a single paladin should set things straight. A 10, however, imagine you're sitting alone at home, curled up on a cold winter's morning, hot cocoa sitting beside you, steam swirling lazily from it, as you snuggle in your blanket and let your eyes dance from line to line of this new incredible book you've discovered. It's so engrossing you can't help but feel like it's altering your very perception. What a strange book. Something about this exotic place called Carcosa. And you wonder to yourself, wow, this was so popular back in its day. But that was before smartphones, the internet, streaming, memes. I wonder if a book like this could go viral. And viral it indeed goes. Your casual sharing of a meme about the book sparks interest in your online friend group, and soon they've all read it. Now it's being covered on BookTube. But you're not worried about the growing popularity. You're still worried about that figure in yellow that seems to always be at the periphery of your vision. You briefly wonder if your friend is going to send you pics from their vacation to Carcosa. They've been gone a long time now. Must be having fun. And then, one day, when you put the book down, you realize that it's so much faster to get to work if you just walk across the highway, right off the edge of that bridge and float your way downtown. Why didn't you think of that before? You should tell your friend group about this amazing shortcut you found. Or maybe that figure in yellow can do it for you. Oh, it's okay. He knows everyone in your friend group now. Your neighbor, your mom, your old ex from high school. They've all seen him. Perhaps you should do like your friend did. Take that vacation. Oh, beautiful Carcosa. Envelop me. Absorb me. That's a 10. As for Bayonetta, I won't beat around the bush. I don't think we can stop her. Our best bet is some combination of snipers, distractions, and overwhelming force, perhaps augmented by some sanctified witches that, feel like doing the Paladin Order a solid. I don't have a good, reliable way for countering witch time or stepping into Purgatorio, but if we got her by surprise, or maybe if we just appealed to her curiosity. Weirder things have happened, but yeah, no one with a Paladin cassock is beating her at arm wrestling, I'll tell you that. In simple terms, we have virtually nothing we could do to stop her if she truly wanted to raise hell with our organization or the public. That said, is she a world-ending force? Not really. Her ranged attacks, despite using guns primarily, are lacking for serious carnage, and she's only one person. She can only be at one place at one time. We even saw that she didn't want to run the entire way to that airstrip, despite being very fast and even being able to slow down time. Heck, even being able to fly in limited capacities, because she does not like to run in heels. Amen, sister. Threat level 6. Let's put a bow on this thing and finish off the paperwork by assigning her witchcraft type. Again, our 3 branches of witchcraft recognized by the Paladin Order are Hellborn. Demons grant you your power and will collect on your soul upon death. Covenant. You utilize a book, artifact, or some other independent source of power, which usually feeds off your soul, devouring it one bite at a time, one spell at a time. And Pure, which are our lovely cottage-in-the-woods type witches that grind up a concoction of natural herbs, blow on crystals, and otherwise channel the power of the world around them, however weaker it may be, to utilize their magic. At least their soul isn't in harm's way. I think it's pretty clear, from the devil's mark on her cheek to Madama Butterfly's giant high heels striking down on her foes, Bayonetta is a hellborn witch through and through. Okay, so you might have noticed on the fact sheet that there was one little part that said contested. Well, apparently Bayonetta's height is something of a big debate among fans. The game certainly goes out of its way to make her look tall, but at the same time, it's not so explicit that you can be certain. I mean, if you look at her next to Enzo or little Cereza, she's a giant. But then if you look at her next to Rodin or Luca, even with 4-inch heels and wearing a beehive, Luca's taller. Now, a few years back, I went to the mat, doing my best to figure out the canon height of Lady Dimitrescu of Resident Evil Village, so it only makes sense that when we bring in our witch Dami Mommy, I would do the same. Sadly, however, there is no canon height mentioned for Bayonetta, outside of 11.97 Umbran witch units. What does that even mean?
25 schmeckles? I don't know how much. I don't know what that is. Is that a lot? Is it a little?
So, I took it upon myself to find a definitive answer, or at least something that would satisfy me. At first look, I just kind of wanted to ballpark it. If we imagine that someone like Luca is your average male height of around 6 to 6'2" for a Westerner, then that puts Bayonetta somewhere around 5'9", not particularly tall. But if we look at this shot from Bayonetta Bloody Fate, when she's at Rodin's bar, the Gates of Hell, her hips are about even with the bar top. Assuming her hips bisect her body, which they don't, her legs are longer, but still, that would mean she's roughly twice the height of the bar. Average bar top is about 43 inches tall, double that for 86 inches, subtract 4 inches for the beehive and 4 more for those heels, and we end up with 6 foot 9 inches, give or take. That's squarely in the Bayonetta's a giant camp. But, on the other hand, like I said before, Luca is taller than her. And if we switch over, the same scene in the game, the bar top is higher compared to her hips. Now, I need you to know, I looked at a ton of stuff before I settled on a measurement. Guys, I figured out that the train she's riding to get to Vigrid is an Alco DL 420 built in 1951, which, if you take her birth year, 1411, add 20 years to become an adult, 1431, add 500 years in a lake, 1931, and then the remaining 20 years she's been out of the lake, we get 1951, the same year that train came into general use. There was a lot more to it, but it ended up being a dead end, and I found a much cleaner way. May I introduce the Internet Game Car Database? Thanks to these mad lads, I was able to identify a motorcycle Bayonetta rides in the game as a Yamaha XV 1100 Virago. With known dimensions, I did some simple pixel measurements. The motorcycle is 90 inches long, which is about 405 pixels. Bayonetta, from head to shoulder, shoulder to butt, butt to knee, and knee to heels, comes out to about 135 pixels. 90 inches over 405 pixels is about 0.222 inches per pixel. Bayonetta's 400 cumulative pixels times 0.0222 is roughly 88.8 inches, or 7 feet 5 inches. Minus 8 for the beehive and heels, and we have 6 foot 9. Oh yeah, baby, math! I am such a nerd. Phew. You know, I was hoping to cut down the length of these videos this year, but then I went and grabbed Bayonetta. I promise you, I could have easily talked for an hour or more, just trying to figure out some of her speeds, her height, her strength. I spent days looking things up and making calculations. It doesn't help that the series is more about style than substance, so at any given time, Bayonetta can just do whatever. In fact, between her hammer space and her literal ability to recover from being squashed like a pancake, I'd say she's more tuned than anything. Like a Roger Rabbit with magic. Wait, no. Jessica Rabbit. But what do you think? Did I get anything wrong? Heaven knows I was an English major, not a math one, so it's more than possible. Still, I had a ton of fun, and I really hope you did too. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe, and why not comment on who you'd like to see next? It helps the channel out a bunch, and while you're there, why not watch another one? We've got 2 full seasons of Monster Menagerie available, going over vampires and demons, including the Demon Awards show that I'm still very, very proud of. If you like this whole world of Masons and Paladins, why not check out our website down below, where you can read the first 3 chapters of our debut novel, The Paladin. That's right, everything we do here, everything we do on Twitch, it's all in service of an amazing urban fantasy novel. Think Sam and Dean meet Harry Dresden. It's simultaneously been called funny, dark, and even nightmare fuel. Link down in the description. Well, I gotta go now. Between Lady Dimitrescu back in Season 1 and Bayonetta today, the archives is going to need to expand its doorways, and, well, they don't call us Masons for nothing. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there. Guys, no, wait, you don't understand the implications of Bayonetta being 6 foot 9. Rodan is taller than her, Luca is taller than her, and most of the people of Vigrid are roughly the same height as Luca. If Bayonetta is 6 foot 9 and not even tall for that world, Her motorcycle should have been even bigger if it's to scale, but it's not. The cars, the bars, they're all set for people our height. Do you understand what that means? Bayonetta, Luca, Jean, all of these people, they're not the original creators of this world. They're giants who inherited this world and didn't change a thing. The door frames, the bar stools, they kept them all without question. What else are they hiding?